Welcome to the Other Side Pod. I'm Nadine. We're not experts. We're just humans having a human experience we think you can learn from, or relate to, or laugh at, or cry over. So hit download, dive in, and hear how folks found themselves on the other side. Oh yeah, baby, we're recording. Lori, before we dig into a pretty heavy topic, or not even heavy, just real and sad and normal and one of those things. Oh my God, that's the worst start. Before we dig in.
This is my effect on people. Awkward. You're welcome.
Before we dive into the world of miscarriages, what is your favorite drink?
So my favorite drink that I drink, so I hate water. I drink what I call a nanny Coke, and what all of the children that come to my house now call it, which is a caffeine-free Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi or PC Cola, whatever, but it's got a gold can. And I called them a nanny Coke because my grandmother drank that and water only and lived to 96. Literally never ate salads lest it prolong her life. And so when people tell me that aspartame is bad, I'm like, let me tell you about my grandmother while I crack a nanny Coke. And the caffeine's really not good for my tissue. So that's my favorite drink, period. But my favorite alcohol drink is something that my husband introduced me to, which is an old fashioned. It's really hard right now because I really miss bourbon.
Why you're not having bourbon? Oh,
well,
yes,
we don't
the
have
States.
Any bourbon because of the
I get
States.
It. I've had an old fashioned at your house. It's delicious.
Yeah, he's really good at making them. And I've become very attached to them.
Him and the old fashions? Or
Both.
Just the old fashions?
Both.
Nanny Coke. Okay, you're the only other person in my whole life that shares something similar to this story. And I never thought I'd ever have a need to say it on the podcast. My grandfather used to make us soup when we were sick. It was from a box. It's Lipton's chicken noodle soup. We didn't know that. We were children. So we would call it Poppy's soup. So our whole lives, I'm 18. I still don't know it's Lipton's Poppy soup or chicken soup. And anytime I'm sick, I'm like, Mom, do we have any Poppy soup? I knew it wasn't something she labored over all day, or my dad. And it would just appear and I would eat my Poppy soup. Maybe I was like 18's pushing it. Maybe I was like 15 when I realized it was in the box. My brother moved to Calgary. I think he finished his engineering degree. I don't know how old he was. Let's say 21, 22. He's there a year or so. He gets sick, like a cold or a flu. And we're chatting one day and he's like, Nadine, remind me what Poppy soup is. I got to go get it. I was like, yeah. Okay. And now all my extended family, like David is like, do we have any Poppy soup? So you're the only other person. Nanny.
I love that.
What do you call it? A nanny Coke?
Nanny Cokes. Nanny Cokes, yeah. So now, everyone just calls them that. It's just what we call them.
Same, Poppy soup.
It's a very specific, caffeine-free, sugar-free, gold can. Go.
Lipton's chicken noodle, red box.
Poppy soup.
Not the less salt one. Don't come at me with that.
What is the point? This is not a point.
Come
on.
Point
when you're sick.
Come on. We're going to switch topics real quick. Did you always want to be a mom?
Always.
Really? What?
Always, yeah.
When did you know?
Always. Oh, I just always knew. I don't know. It was just something that always was. And it's funny. So, I grew up with a mom who probably, if she was 16 now, she would probably be a person who would not have kids. But it was 1968, and so she was going to have kids, and she was going to do that. Which, she was a great mom in lots of ways, but she wasn't maternal. I had no domestic capacity. I had no domestic role modeling at all. But there was still always a strong maternal instinct. Just want them. And I used to joke. I remember when I was 17, I used to joke with my mom on April Fool's Day. And I called her, or I was maybe 18. I was living on my own. And I called her and I said, oh, Mom, I'm pregnant. And her immediate reaction was, yes. And I was like, oh, what other mother? Like, I am in Cégep. I have no job. My boyfriend at the time, lovely, but like not fatherly material. And her response was, yes. And it was just like uncomplicated. Like, yeah, I want to be a mom. That's it. And I didn't feel the need to wait for the right time. And I mean, that's also partly how I was raised, but I didn't have any of that. Like, I hear everybody
Yes,
say
it's a
that.
big, yeah.
I need to wait to this, that, and that. And I was always like, but I think it's because I just have always appreciated that plans are ludicrous
Mm,
and you just, you know, so yeah, always wanted to be a mom, to the point that, like, this is a bit of a, a jump ahead, but at one point in my therapy journey, during my infertility and miscarriages journey, my therapist, I love her so much, she basically said, like, I can't help you anymore. You're doing all the things you can, but unless, like, this is just a grief you're going to have to walk around with, because unless you can stop wanting to be a mom, this is where you live now, and you're doing everything you can. And I feel like I should say that. I want to mention that too for people listening here, because there are a lot of journeys that happen through infertility and miscarriages, etc. And not everybody has the happy ending of children. And so I want to, like, be clear that I did end up having children. And so if people need to, like, stop listening right now because they can't do that, do it. Turn it off. I'll irritate you. And it's okay. And it's okay. There's so much on these journeys. You spend so much time in self-loathing because you have grief, and you have to, at the same time, have joy for others who you love so much that they get to go on the journey that you're trying to get on. And then you hate yourself for being selfish and being in your grief. And so I like to give out that permission slip to people, like, just, you're good. You get to hate me. All good. I get it. Been there. It's fine.
right.
But I don't just want to, like, because it's different. Like, I've had friends who've ended both ways. They've had to let go of that and work through
Thanks.
that. And,
Mhm.
and it's a different ending.
Yeah. And it's one I can empathize or have compassion for, but I never experienced it. Because on the flip side of you always wanting kids, that wasn't something that I was like, oh, I want it.
Mhm.
I thought I would because, I grew up in the 80s and 90s in
Yeah.
Newfoundland and I had a loving family and I just was like, oh, this is what we do. We get married and have
Yeah.
kids. But I remember getting divorced after just being married for a year, another episode. And the immediate feeling I had was, I don't have to have kids. Not because he
Wow.
really wanted them.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. He didn't even really want them. He was like, we can or we don't have
Yeah.
to, like whatever. But I mean, this is sad and I mean, I doubt he listens to this. But at one point I said to him, hint that I've married the wrong person. We need to have kids because I don't know what else we'll talk about in a few years. Like I didn't see that being
Mhm.
anyway.
I
Don't
mean,
worry,
people
folks.
have
I have
children for worse reasons,
I
let's be
know.
clear.
And
And those
I
children go
I
on to do wonderful things. But it's interesting that you felt relief. I used to try and
yes.
talk myself, and I had like I had a pros and cons list of all of the beautiful ways in which I would have a great life if I could just stop wanting them. And I had friends
Oh,
who didn't, and the disposable income, it's a form of insanity to want children. It makes no sense. Like, you would never do it for logical reasons, like what it does to your body, your sleep, your physiology, your wallet, your everything. It's not a logical thing to want. And if you want
yet
it, you can't turn it off.
you can't.
And it
Uh,
becomes all consuming. Yeah.
I was consumed with the idea that I felt I should have wanted them.
Oh,
That
yeah, for
consumed
sure. Of
me for a long time.
course.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
and David and I would have the conversation like every 6 months, and inevitably one of us would cry because it was like, what if? Because I'd always fear, what if I wanted it, and he'd be like, because he always knew he didn't want kids. Like he
Mm,
remembers being young. I mean, like I'm not doing that. So I was always afraid. I'm like, I found this lovely human, and do I not want this? Even though
mhm.
I never woke up and was like, I do. But I would say to him, what if I wake up and I want them? He's like, well, we'll talk about it. But anyway, so I did mourn not wanting them. Not that God,
Yeah.
it's so hard to
Well, we put
explain,
a lot
but
of
like,
pressure. Oh, it's not, though. It makes total sense. Like, we
really?
put so much, oh my goodness, so much of women's identity is based on, their, like, if we work backwards from their mothering, their ability to mother, if they don't want to mother, ooh, it's like a character question. Like, it's implicit, right? We put a lot, and women internalize that, right? We internalize that, and then we judge ourselves if we don't want it. It makes total sense.
I don't even know if it was that because I didn't actually judge myself for not wanting it. That wasn't where I went. I like to do everything. I'm I can't stop
Mhm.
talking about the Enneagram. I'm a 7. I want to experience it all. The thoughts that I would never know that love was something that I'm like, oh God, I'm making a
Mm.
choice not to experience something
Yeah.
that is going to be wonderful. I just didn't want to do it. That's what I mourned.
Yeah. Interesting. Like,
And
you're going
I'm,
to lose out on that experience.
yes, I'm like, oh, and I
Mhm.
remember a really dear
There
friend,
was only a way you could have it for like a week to like check it off.
so great.
Boom.
Yeah, except I knew I wouldn't want to give them up because I would love them like to the
You
ends of
would.
the earth. Because my
Yeah.
mom, I mean, I was very lucky to be loved to the ends of the earth by both parents. So I had an implicit trust that I would love this little kid or baby or adult or human. Tinda, our dear friend that we
Oh.
share. One time when I was going through this whole like, do I, don't I think, yeah, I know I'd met David at this point, and she was like, all right, what do you want? And I'm like, oh, to replicate the relationship that I have with my mom and dad. And she was like, what if you don't get that? And I'm like, ew,
Mhm.
I don't want that. And she was like, yeah, you can't have
Yeah.
kids with an expectation of how that kid's going to be. I'm like, oh, really? Is that not what we do? And she's like, hell no. I'm like, oh, and that was like a turning point for me to give myself permission to accept that I had this relationship. I have this relationship. I can't
Yeah.
replicate it. I can't have a child with this expectation on this little being already that
Mhm.
they have to be a certain way for me to be happy as a mom. I was like, oh, right, that is a bit messed up.
That's an incredibly, not surprisingly, wise framing that she gave you there,
Kinda.
because I think a lot of, right? I think a lot of parents never actually do that processing, and they end up unconsciously trying to replicate that and trying to
Uh,
manage those subconscious expectations and struggle with that. I do all the time. Like, I project. My girlfriend Marianne and I were always trying to, like, we both had dynamic childhoods, shall we say, and we're always like, okay, we keep projecting our shit onto our kids and assuming that they feel maybe the way we felt, or that they, and you have to constantly let them have their own journey and let them be their own people. It's so hard. It's so hard. It's really hard, but you have to stay vigilant about it. And that's the humanity in all of us, though, right? Like, we always want to kind of understand things in a way that makes sense to us, which makes us project. And then we have to let people and ourselves have unique experiences and let the expectations go and just observe it and watch it. Yes, we definitely did yoga school together, didn't we?
I know. Also, you're so wise. I literally, before we hit record, I was like, Lori, I don't need an hour with you. I need a week. Like,
It's
there's
true, we
so many
do.
things. Okay, I want to go back. You're 18 and you get pregnant.
I
Like,
didn't get pregnant. It was
oh,
just an April Fool's joke. It was just an April Fool's joke. But sorry, yeah, it was just an April Fool's joke. I wasn't 18. No, no.
and she was like, excellent. And you were like, well,
She was
this
like
this
amazing.
was a failed
And
April
then
Fool's.
by the time I was 20, like in university, living with 17 people, she she bought me a pram from like the early 1900s, like one of those big wicker prams with like wooden wheels. It's like the size of a large desk. She lived in an apartment building, and she was like, "You're gonna be a mom. I've got the pram. I'm ready for it." And
She
she
wanted you
kept
to
that
use it.
friggin'. She was manifesting it. Like, she knew that I was she knew I needed it for me. And so I just, yeah. So, but I will say that I wasn't always honest with how much I want. I wasn't honest. I didn't realize, whichever way you want to put it. And the trajectory was, you can't want kids too early. Like, you can't say that out loud, because then you sound crazy. Like, you have to go through school, you have to get your job, you have to get settled, you have to get financially secure, whatever that means. And then that's the responsible time to do it. So I fell into that, but it pinged me. Like, I was probably ready to start. I would have been ready at like 25. 25 would have been the right time for me to like become a mom. I wasn't, you know, like, was I in my heightened maturity and no, but guess what? I'm not now either. Like you know, it's going to be a constant thing. But you know what? I had at 25, I had energy, and energy turns out is super helpful. But I wanted 4 children. I wanted 4 daughters. Like, it was all very clear to me. And then I held off with my first husband. He was very responsible and whoa, whoa, whoa. And so we held off, like trying until just like before I turned 30. And we moved into the house and the separate, and we like he needed all of that.
Okay.
So we went that, you know, we went on that pacing.
Okay. And then you get pregnant quickly or no?
No.
Oh,
No, so it took a year to get pregnant. And meanwhile, we had moved into this house in the suburbs, and the neighbors and the kids are on the street, and I am like, my depression is just not doing well. And so I got pregnant finally in January, I think. So the thing, yeah, it's so interesting. So you wait for a year, you finally get pregnant, it's happening. Oh my God. You want to be patient and responsible, and you know that not every pregnancy works out, but like your brain, my brain, instantly was picking out names and designing nurseries, and like everything that it had been holding off doing, it just like did. And so when I went to the doctor to get a blood test, and it was really early, but I was really excited about this. And then I remember she called me at work to say that the hormone levels were not high enough, so it probably wouldn't last.
Hmm.
And this was like I was 6 weeks, which means like 2 weeks, right? I was 2 weeks in, but those 2 weeks were like glorious because like it had happened. It was happening finally. And so I went home, still kind of like hoping she was wrong, you know, hoping she was wrong. And then what happened after that was really wild because I had always been told that miscarriages are just like heavy periods, especially that early on. But what happened for me was not that. It was more like labor, basically, is what happened. So we had to go to the hospital because I was in agony. And I remember being at the emerge, and the nurse was like, the triage nurse, they're tired. They're over it. I get it. But I was like doubled over, and they were like, do you maybe have a UTI? I'm like, no, I'm 6 weeks pregnant. Like, this is what's happening. And they were like, what's your level of pain out of 10? I was like, 10. And my husband at the time, who was very much like everybody's fine. Like, he doesn't coddle anybody. That's not his thing. I remember looking at him, and he was terrified for me, which I had never seen before. And he said to the nurse, he was like, she runs half marathons. She doesn't do pain. Like, this is not, she does not, she's not like that. So she, like, something's very wrong. And then my body, this was the wildest thing. I was wearing a t-shirt and a hoodie. It was a New York Jets hoodie. I remember it well. And within the span of, I'm going to say like 7 seconds, I completely burst in sweat. Like, I could put my entire sweatshirt was soaking, which I turned out later. I think they call it a vagal reaction from the pain. My body went into shock from the pain, and it did that. Then they took it seriously, and then they brought me in, and they gave me morphine drip, and then we were okay. But I
painful.
remember, it was labor. Like, I was having contractions. My body was going into labor, but without any of the things. So that was a piece that I feel like I've tried to sort of just kind of let people know that, because it was so scary, because I didn't know it could be like that. I really just thought at 6.5 weeks, I'm just going to stay
Yeah.
home. It's going to be cramping and a heavy period, and that's it. And it was like, no, no,
Yeah.
it was unbelievable. Yeah.
Why don't we hear more about this? Because I've had friends that have had miscarriages and have explained it in a similar way, the pain level being so intolerable.
Yeah.
Yet it every time I hear it, I'm surprised again because I almost forget it because I don't hear it often at
Yeah.
all. Why?
Yeah.
What?
The communication around miscarriages is like, it's such a weird place to live in. when you're going through infertility. It's so deeply painful, but also private. I didn't share my miscarriage with a lot of people. And as you know, I am a massive oversharer on a number of things, but this was something that actually did not share at the time with many people.
Why?
And so it's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. It's like it was embarrassing for me because I just already felt like a failure as a woman. Like I'd been told I'd been told all my life that I had great childbearing hips. And I'm like, well, they're not very helpful now, are they? And it was so sad. I had other friends that were getting pregnant and you didn't want to like bring them down. And I actually had two girlfriends who were pregnant at the same, like the three of us were pregnant at the same time. And for whatever reason, we all told each other. One of them was my best friend. And then I had the miscarriage and they didn't. And so I see their kids now and I'm like, yeah, that was
Right.
my, like it was literally this, they were all due the same week. And it was just, it makes people very uncomfortable, especially when they're in it. Most people don't know what to say. And you're just like, this is awkward. You can't help. Also, just nobody can help. What are people going to do? What are people going to say? Although I did learn a lot from friends that were amazing through the next few years that like I did figure out what people need. But like I found some good like tips and tricks for when your friends have miscarriages or your family members have miscarriages. Try these tracks.
I'm going to call
Because I
this
think that
podcast that tips and tricks for miscarriages.
literally, it's like it for like when you don't know how to help somebody, what to do, right? Because you're just shocked, but it's such a deeply personal thing. It's just,
Right.
you're just devastated.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that year that you were trying to get pregnant, that's not considered infertility a year, right? Like I literally never tried to get pregnant, so I don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so a year is when they say, okay, now go to the doctor.
Okay. Okay.
So we were just about there.
And you had gotten pregnant, so it wasn't like get to the doctor or there's something. Okay. Okay. So you get
Yeah.
pregnant and 6 weeks later, I'm so sorry you went through that. That's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. So, and then it was another year to get pregnant again.
And is that when doctors intervene or you went for?
Yeah. So the second time was later. It was almost 12 weeks that I miscarried. And it was the May long weekend. And we had just done, I joked, it was like a tour of Southern Ontario because we went and we told my mom and we went and we told, his parents and everyone was so relieved from 2 years of trying. It's happening. And then we got back home on the Sunday night and I knew that it was about to, I knew it was about to happen. And
How did
there'd
you
been some
know?
bleeding over the weekend.
Okay.
And I was like, no, 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 I'm almost 12 weeks. No, no, no. And then the cramps started on the, would have been the Monday night. And I was
God.
like, oh God. But I still was like, no, no, no. And then the next morning, so this one was horrible. This one was, we had to call an ambulance because I was like, I don't know what hemorrhaging is, but it was like soaking through towels with blood. And I was on the bathroom floor, like couldn't get up and the pain was brutal. So we called the ambulance, which felt so, I was like, I'm sorry, this is probably like not, I'm sorry. Like you have better, more important things to do. And I just remember them, like they brought the bed up to the upstairs to put me on the bed to bring me out. They gave me morphine in the ambulance, but the paramedic was so good. She just kept saying, this is literally what ambulances are for. This is what ambulances are for. And so we got there. The morphine was like a lifesaver. And then the worst part of that one was that to figure out if it had passed, I had to be sent up for an ultrasound, which is in like the labor and delivery area. So I'm on a hospital gurney in the hallway looking up at the fetal development charts. And then all these pregnant women are in the waiting room walking by this woman who was a disaster. And it was the cruelty of it was just over the top. Like it just was over the top. And then I ended up going to the washroom and I could see that it had passed. And I came out of the bathroom and I just looked at my husband and was like, get me the fuck out of here. And we like escaped. I was like, it's done. I know it's done. We're done. And he just like wheeled me, like escaped me. because the agony of being in that environment was it just like it felt mean. Like it
Yeah.
felt mean. So yeah, that one was really horrendous. And then I remember like at that point I was so mad at my body. Like we were in a fight. We were not
Mhm.
friends. And I had signed up for the 10K National Race Weekend the next weekend before I had gotten pregnant.
Yeah.
But then while I was pregnant, because I was so terrified, I didn't do anything. I didn't move.
Right.
Don't move. Don't do anything. But I was still registered for the 10K the following weekend. Oh my God. I ran that 10K so angry at my body. I was like, fuck you. I tell you what to do. You are going to run this, even though we haven't trained. I'm going to run this. And I was like, and it was quite therapeutic, to be honest. It was a good way to get the anger out. It's like, let's
Yeah.
go. I think it was probably my best time I ever had. No training, just pure rage,
It's
just
like
fueled on rage.
Lori Brooks comes in as the winner of the 10K.
Yeah, just mad at her body, just mad. Yeah, yeah.
Going back to the fact that that's the hospital floor that they put you on, why would they do that? It remember, like, my mom had a hysterectomy when she was in her late 40s, and that's the floor she was on. And she had 3 kids. And so, anyway, point of this is I
Yeah.
was in visiting her, and we could hear a woman weeping, weeping. And I don't know, I think I was like 18, 19. And I was like, do you hear that? And mom said she lost her baby. And I'm like, everything else you could hear, 'cause she was on the labor and delivery, like babies everywhere. You could hear crying babies. And this woman, I can still hear her. I can still hear those cries. And mom and I were like, why would they put her on this floor? Why? Is it this thought that like exposure therapy? It's so awful.
It's just efficiency, right? It's just this is where the medical professionals that know how to deal with those parts, this is their headquarters. So everyone who has anything to do with this, there they go. Yeah, I remember my sister having her hysterectomy as well at a hospital in Ottawa, and she was struck with gratitude that she had had a child, recognizing that there were people in there getting hysterectomy who hadn't, and who were in that space, and just the you know the yeah it's brutal. It's brutal, that
Brutal.
part of it. It just
It
seems, and it
does.
seems unnecessary. Like, listen, I love efficiency as much as the next person.
Sames, but it's
But
got
like,
to
and just
be.
there's a lot of like a little just recognition go a long way. You know, like had they said, like, I'm really sorry. I know this is terrible. We're going to get you in and out of here as fast as possible. We know this is just where that would have been everything. Like that would have
Right.
been really helpful.
No one
But
said
it was
that.
more, no. They were just like here. And then I was literally in the hallway for like probably 45 minutes waiting. And then
Watching
finally,
all these
yeah.
bellies go
And
by.
just trying not to traumatize the poor pregnant women who were like, oh my God, is this going to happen to me?
Mm.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they ever, is there ever a reason given for a miscarriage? Do they even bother to figure out what
Mhm.
happened?
It's a really good question. So this is where I feel like the medical system does well in that their first response is always like, these things just happen. It's no one's fault, because you're naturally going to blame yourself. So there are, like, once I got into the fertility clinic, actually I'd already been at the fertility clinic at that point. Like we were doing the diagnostics and stuff, and then I happened to get pregnant. So I kind of put that on pause, but they were looking at like is it my uterine lining? Is it, what is happening? I mean, they never found anything that was the cause, but they don't, so for some people there will be kind of diagnostics that are available, but for the most part, they really just, actually, I don't know if this is helpful or not, but it does happen so often. And to figure out what happened is, on any one miscarriage, I think it would be such a process that it would just be, like, I think from what I've kind of appreciated is that they think that generally a miscarriage is like an embryo, whatever, that is not genetically,
Viable.
viable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it's, nature's way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you just kind of assume that, but you're constantly like, you can't, I blame myself entirely. I remember that first pregnancy, I had gone for hot pot, and I wondered if I had raw meat. I still remember wondering, and I had a cold medication. And I had a NyQuil or a Benadryl or something like that, and it haunted me. I was like, did I do it? Like you just, yeah. Mhm.
And the second one was, did you have like a thing that haunted you that you were like, I shouldn't have, I don't know, done that car ride? I don't know. We can go pretty dark
Yeah.
places. Yeah.
So that one, I do wonder the degree to which stress at work caused it. It was one of the kind of two biggest things in my career that I've worked on that was amazing and really interesting and really proud to have been a part of it. And it was intense and it was acrimonious and it was difficult and the stress was intense. So I wonder, but then I think like, this is really dark, sorry, but like women get raped in war and that stress doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, so who know, like, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows, right? It's a torture.
So it's an answer you'll never
process.
get,
It's an
ever.
answer you'll never get because it's never going to make sense because
No.
there's always going to be examples of how
Yeah.
it didn't apply right there,
Yeah.
right? Like,
For sure.
so it's just, yeah, which is hard because when you're trying to solve something, you want an answer.
Yeah. I always want an answer.
Of course we want an answer. We all
Gosh,
want an answer.
for everything.
Answers are helpful.
Yeah.
And you can do something about it. And there were no answers here.
And that's why therapists are helpful.
Right?
To make you accept the answerless world that we live in.
Yeah.
You go home. What, like, who's your biggest support at this point? Who do you lean on?
Twitter.
What?
It was a bit of a heyday of Twitter. It was like Twitter's golden era. And I didn't feel like there was no one in my world, even though, I had friends who had had miscarriages, but they had also moved on to have children. And I didn't want to weigh them down. You don't want to be a burden on anybody in real life. And most of my mom knew, and my mom had had multiple miscarriages, and my grandmother had multiple miscarriages. So they knew, but they couldn't, they weren't talkers about things, right? And so I didn't really have no one else could really relate at all. And I didn't share it a lot with people because it just got awkward and people would say things like, it's for the best and it'll work eventually. And, things that even like, but to be clear, like I had said that to people too. Like I didn't get it, right? Like, but Twitter at that time it was a heyday. And I can't remember how I stumbled upon it, but there was a whole infertility community on there.
Oh.
Whole infertility community. And so, you followed the hashtags and then you found your people. And then there was like 5 or 6 women who were in it. We were in it. And we could have those conversations about procedures and miscarriages and this and that and, hating baby showers and being mad at the person who accidentally got pregnant and like all, your worst part of yourself that you kind of hated. It was like a space where you could just like let that out. And then you could go back to being graceful with the world. Like it was incredibly therapeutic. And so we all followed each other for a long time. And I think, we still kind of keep in touch despite all having kind of gone our own ways. And that chapter is kind of ending, but we still, we're still kind of rooting each other on and get excited. And, for those that it worked and those that didn't, it didn't, there's one woman I think of all the time on Twitch. She had 5 basically births, 2 sets of twins and another that none of them survived. And, she finds, right? Like she finds meaning in her life. And one of the twins that she had has had the same name as my daughter has. And I didn't know that, but when I, anyway, it was like the part that I'm grateful about the whole journey for is that, I can meet people in their darkness. I can meet people there and like, sometimes that's all I feel like we can do as humans.
Yeah.
Is to not make them feel like complete freaks in their darkness.
And you stay with people in it, it's a real I keep saying gift, and I don't know if it's the right word, but it's a real gift of having you in my life. Like you're not someone who tries to push you or pull you out of the darkness. You're like, all right, I'll pack a bag. Let's sit.
And this is, yeah, and it's so funny. So one of the tips and tricks for friends. So one of the person who was actually one of my friends who was she was amazing. She wasn't like beside me for it or anything, but so we went out at one point for drinks at like a dingy little pub. I should have hated her. She got pregnant like that. Like she couldn't stop getting, like she was like my, like the opposite of my experience. And whenever I told her what happened, she got so fucking mad at the universe for me. She was like furious. And for whatever reason, that was the most therapeutic thing. It was like, yeah, the unfairness of it. Like she was so mad at the unfairness for me. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't, she didn't know what to say, but she was like furious. Like I had to like calm her down. And it was like, oh my God, you best. Like it became funny. You know what I mean? Like she was so mad that it became funny to me how mad she was for me. While I'm like, can you just have one and give me one of yours? Like you're good at this, like it just created this really hilarious space. And then this other friend of mine who also got pregnant fairly easily, although had like all sorts of health issues and all sorts of stuff. I remember she sent me an email when she was, I feel like it might have been her second, because she was pregnant with her first one before I really started trying. So it was her second baby. And she knew my struggles and is just a very practical and emotionally intelligent person. And she sent me an email and she said, I just want you to know I'm pregnant. I'm going to announce it. I think maybe it was to our basketball team or something. I'm going to tell the basketball team, but I wanted you to have time to process it on your own first so that you can have all your feelings in private. And she didn't, and like, how generous and thoughtful was that? And then I felt guilty because she was worrying about my feelings instead of just being happy about her pregnancy. Like, told her. But I just remember that, like, being astounded at the generosity of that gesture and just seeing it and not loving me still. You know what I mean? Like not everybody had that grace of being able to see that I just had multiple feelings. And she was so wise. It was so impactful.
Wait,
Yeah.
some people couldn't give you the space to have feelings?
Well, it was just people like again, people would be like, oh, what'll happen next time? And then they would go on to talk about their pregnancy as though like there were some like moments of remarkable insensitivity that just kind of, okay, it kind of clarified some things. Like not all friendships were the same before and after. And some friendships I've there have been conscious efforts to like rebuild because the differences in our journeys were at the same time, each difficult, but just couldn't relate. And, I had a hard time when my friends would complain about being tired with their newborn. I didn't want to, like, I'm not the person to complain to, sorry. Like find someone else to complain to. Like,
yes.
So that was really hard because I didn't have a lot of grace for them.
Yeah, I get it.
I just didn't.
I can understand that. I remember just as dad had died and someone would complain about their dad, and I just remember being like, God, I wish my dad could barge in on me in the middle of my day. I wish that was something that I could be mad at. Like, but I didn't have the grace for them either. It felt like a cruelty to me. I'm like, what? Who are
Yeah.
And you're going through your own stuff, so you're probably also questioning your own reactions instead of saying like, hey, I need you to not do that with me because I'm really sad actually about this. But I probably didn't say anything and internalized it. And so just
my
be
reactions
aware.
to it were like the opposite of mature.
Yeah.
And enlightened. Like I did not handle that hurt well. I oh, it was the worst. And then I was, I was coping like with alcohol. I was coping. I was doing all the things to like every month was like a different, I'm going to go gluten free. I'm going to go sugar free. I'm going to get acupuncture. I'm going to do Reiki. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like all, like like if you Google infertility, like checklist, it's kind of hilarious because it shows you all the things that everybody tries doing to make it happen. And, there were times in the grief for sure where, again, like I was like, okay, fine, body. If you're not going to give me this, then I'm going to go live a crazy life. I'm going to go to Montreal for the weekend. I'm going to drink my face off and do karaoke and, like the consolation prize, right?
'Cause how old are you at this point? Early 30s?
Early 30s, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I had disposable income, like all the financial security, the plan
Mhm.
had worked. And then, yeah. So, no, like I did not navigate that well. I didn't have the space to navigate it well. So,
Look back on that person now, though, and with like a lot of grace and compassion. Yeah, okay.
I can. I
Yeah.
can. Yeah. Yeah. You learn through the hard stuff, right? So,
Mhm.
it was important for I think there were a few people in the ecosystem who kind of learned a lot through that has made us all better humans.
So, what happens next?
So then about 4 months after that one, then because we were already in the fertility clinic process. So then we're like, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to do intrauterine insemination, IUI, which is, there's IVF, IUI. There's probably other ones now, like this is quite a long time ago, but IUI is what I affectionately refer to as the turkey baster method.
Yeah, right.
So we do that one. And then because I'm high risk, because I've heard the multiple miscarriages, you go in every week for an ultrasound to monitor it. So it works the first time I get pregnant, hooray. Go in for the first ultrasound, okay, heartbeat good. Go in for the second ultrasound, no heartbeat.
But how many weeks is this?
So this is also, it was about 6 weeks. Like,
Oh my
but
gosh.
when we say 6 weeks, like you've been pregnant for 2 weeks, right?
Right.
Because the
Okay.
first four is, so we know there's no heartbeat, that it's not passing.
Oh,
So then we wait to see if it's going to pass naturally or if we're going to have to induce it. So that was a trip. So this is what I refer to. I think I mentioned it before. My favorite miscarriage. This one was my favorite miscarriage because my doctor at the fertility clinic, so sweet, this man, he knew about my miscarriages. He knew I was like had a propensity to like violent miscarriages. So he was like, "Okay, so here's I'm going to take this medication. It's going to make things happen, and here's a bottle of Percocets, and you're going to take the Percocet. You're going to take 2 Percocets first, and then you're just going to take them every whatever it was, 3-4 hours. You're not going to wait to feel pain. There will be no pain for this one. We are getting ahead of the pain." And so it was Halloween, and I want to say it was like a Sunday. And so I was just super high all day. I was just super high and miscarrying, and and it was all kind of happening, but I had no pain and I was high. I made a pie. I was giving out candy to the kids. I was like, oh, if every miscarriage was like this, I think I can handle it. Like there were no feelings, right? I was too high. There were no feelings. I was just relieved that it wasn't agony
painful. Mm. Oh,
and that it was finally going to be done. I could move on. So that one, my favorite one.
when did the feelings hit, though?
Oh, so at this point, so this is a really important piece, actually. I'm glad you asked that. So at this point, I didn't have any feelings left.
Oh,
I was like, my level of depression was so intense, and I was like on antidepressants because I otherwise like really couldn't function. And I had no hope. I had no feelings. I was just going through the motions because I didn't know what else to do. And there's a lot of like that toxic positivity of like, you can't give up hope. You can't give up hope. And what I tell people now when they're going through it, I'm like, you can actually. Because by my fourth pregnancy, which was the one that worked, I'm going to tell you, I had zero hope until probably like 14 weeks. And you know what? Still worked. Still worked. What do you mean
It still
still
worked.
happened? Like I got
Oh,
like my
even
fourth
without the hope.
pregnancy.
Yeah, right.
You don't need hope. Don't put that pressure on yourself. Don't, because literally there's pressure to like stay positive. It's bullshit. Don't do it. The positivity doesn't get you there, and the positivity doesn't, like, the lack of positivity also doesn't stop it. If it's going to go, it's going to go, right? And so adding that pressure on yourself to stay positive, etc. So what I tell people now when they're in like the infertility piece, and like I try and relieve them of that pressure on themselves, and like, I'm going to hold your hope. I'm going to have your hope, so you don't have to have it. Don't worry about it. You just get through the days. Just get through the days. Don't put pressure on it. I had no hope, and it still worked. So don't.
I Sorry to cut you off. Why is it pressure? It's pressure because here's where my brain goes. I go to when someone gets a like an illness, a diagnosis of something pretty serious, because
Yeah.
I'm not talking about, cold. And then they talk about like the power of positivity. I understand the
Agree.
toxicity of positivity for sure, but I'm just trying to clarify. When it's like they say that you could have an effect on your body by I'm answering my own question because they say, air quotes here, you can have an effect on your body with positivity. So if you're a woman who's going through infertility
Mm-hmm.
and you aren't positive about this next pregnancy or this experience today, then you're the reason it failed. I got there. I went full circle on that.
There it is. And
Right.
what I want to, and so like what I show from the rooftops is like, that's a lie.
Mm.
Literally so the fourth time I got pregnant, so if that was Halloween, it was January that I did the IUI.
So you did a second round of IUI.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I had my sister and I had gone to Cuba, to Havana in December. It was so funny. This is like a total aside, but it makes me laugh. And I had walking pneumonia when I got there. So we had to call a doctor to the hotel, or the hotel had a doctor, whatever we called them. And first of all, my sister and I were like, I hope it's a hot Cuban doctor. Let's just hope it's a hot Cuban doctor. And sure enough, she was the hottest doctor we have ever seen. She's like mini skirt, high heels, makeup, full. She was amazing. I was like, yep, perfect. I did not clarify, so fair. We got the hottest doctor in Havana, definitely. Anyway, and she was asking me about medication. She was like, are you on medication? And I said, "Mhm." And she was like, okay, what? But she didn't really speak English. And I said, antidepressantos? I'm like, ridiculous. And she was like, hmm? And my sister goes, and the doctor's like,
Like
oh,
a
and I feel
mimic's
like
cry.
yeah. And I feel like the doctor was just like, oh, antidepresantos. And I was like, that's what I said. Anyway, and then she looks at me with this like judgy face. She was like, why? And I was like, no, baby. And she was like, are you married? And she married? And I was like, yeah. She was like, that's why. And then she basically said, somehow we got it. She was like, is your husband here? I was like, no. She was like, go home with a baby in your belly. This was like
God.
doctor's advice. It was hilarious. Oh my God. I think of her all the time. It was hilarious. I was like,
The
literally, she
universe sent her to
prescribed me to
you.
have an affair
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go home. Anyway, it was
Would have been a
amazing.
good time.
So, right? So then in January, we do IUI again. And then on the Friday before the clinic, I'd gone in for the blood test to see if it worked. And I called the office and they said, so we have your results. And they were like, your hormone levels are such that I don't know how many are in there, but there's definitely more than one. And I was like, okay. And so I spend all weekend kind of in shock, but also like literally my first and only thought through the whole pregnancy was like, please let me just keep one of them. Please just let me have one of them. Just leave me with one, please. Because there's no way I was going to have however many, that was never going to work. So went in for the ultrasound again every week for like the first 12 weeks. And I was bleeding the whole time and cramping the whole time. Like, I know this, I know this, I know this.
Lori.
Here we go. And then, so every week I would go into the ultrasound and I would look at the ultrasound tech and I would say in like my very factual face, because again, I was devoid of feelings. I had no hope. I was like, I think this is maybe when I stopped being able to cry because, I can't cry. I think maybe this is when I stopped being able to. And I would look at the ultrasound tech and I would say, so listen, I've been bleeding, I'm cramping. There's probably no heartbeat for either of the, at that point, we knew there were two. It's like, there's probably no heartbeat. Just tell me that and let me leave. Don't try and comfort me. Don't try and do anything. And I remember the ultrasound tech being like, oh, you're really sad. Like, wow. Like, there is no, you are like, that was 100% what was going to happen. So, like, manifesting, if I was manifesting, that was like peak manifesting. And then I looked up at that friggin' ultrasound screen and it was like, there were these two little twinkling stars. And I was like, wait, what? How, like, literally, how is this possible? Like, I'm bleeding and cramping and there's still two heartbeats. Like, okay, fine, this week. Next week, it'll be done. Like, next week. So every week, it was the same thing. I'm like, nope. And every week, they just kept going. And I was like, okay. I still didn't have any comfort. Like, there was no nursery. There was no nothing. Like, I could not anymore. I was just waiting for it to end. And the brutality of it is like, you feel every twinge in your body all day long. And you wonder, you're like, I'm not nauseous. I'm not, da, 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 da. I like, oh, my foot hurts. Is that because, like, literally, it's crazy making. The difference with this pregnancy, though, was that I was really sick. That was the only thing that was different and helpful.
Like
And
nauseous?
my girlfriend, yeah, I was super nauseous. I remember my girlfriend being like, I feel like you're the only person who's ever been that sick and smiling through it. I was like, it's quite comforting because it means my hormone levels are high, right? Like, it means that, like, things are okay, but I was still cramping and
God, still cramping and bleeding. What? I
yeah,
didn't know
so
that
it
could happen
turned out,
throughout. Okay.
yeah. So it turned out I had like there was like a little blood clot somewhere in my that just was working itself out, which just seemed like unnecessarily like a
Universe,
mimic of a
give it
miscarriage.
a break for a moment.
For the love of God.
Oh,
So yeah, so I ended up having to, I didn't want to
jeez.
know the sex before having, and I realized that because I was so disconnected from it, I actually needed to find out like the sex of the babies because I wasn't able to like,
Connect.
they were in me and I was like, I was not attaching to
You were
them
so
emotionally,
afraid.
basically.
Yeah.
I was like completely, yeah. So once we found out the sex, then it was like, okay, that sort of started to get me
How many
going there.
weeks did you find that out?
Oh, how many weeks do you find that out? I can't even remember anymore. Like probably like 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
And yeah. And then like with one of them, there were a lot of issues and they were going to send me to get him genetically tested because he had these really problematic markers. And then so we had to go through that whole piece.
Oh my
And so
God, I
we
didn't know
couldn't
you had
lose
to go
him.
through that.
Yeah. And then we ended up just like, but to do the genetic testing would have been a miscarriage risk.
Because it's the
And I
needle
was
through the
like,
belly. Is that the genetic testing?
yeah. And I was like, I can't knowingly do that. So we're just going to have to roll the dice. And then in the end, little dude is like, he's good.
It's pretty perfect.
But it was a really, it was like, it was just, it's not a joyful pregnancy. It's just terrifying.
You're like, just get me to the end goal. Like, just get me to delivery so I can see that these are real little babies. Like
you're
flesh
like,
and...
are they like, it was, yeah. I had girlfriends at the same time pregnant and they're just like, and I was just like, I mean, I was okay at that point to be like, give them and just like look at them and be happy for them and just be curious, like, what is that like to just peacefully enjoy your pregnancy? I'd always wanted to have that experience of like, and it was just, yeah, not, it was just scary. It was just really scary.
Were you going to therapy at the time to work through this stuff? Or did you just not even want to touch that part of it?
So yeah, I went in and out of just not being able to touch it. At that point, my therapist had already lovingly broken up with me. And then when it came time to that, so my fertility doctor was good. He was like, no, you're going to stay on antidepressants because you need to. And then I was doing acupuncture. I was like, does it help? Is it going to help? Like, there's all these extra things you do with fertility treatments, like
Okay.
take all these extra meds to get the uterine lining strong and to like, there's this whole regimen. And he was like, acupuncture. He's like, do you feel good when you go? I said, yeah. He was like, then go. Go
Right.
do things that feel good. But I was also like, I got progressive, like I was really sick the whole time, which was also a blessing because it doesn't, like I always say when you're nauseous, that's your entire physiological and emotional sensation. Like when you
Yeah,
can't be stressed
right.
when you're nauseous, you can't
Right.
like, you're just sick, right? So I got distracted for quite a long time with that. And then once we got to a point where I knew that they were like, if they came early, they would be
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Then it was a different kind of story. Then I kind of was like, okay, we're doing this. And then I was able to have a baby shower and I was able to, do those things. But it was not like, I hate seeing women trying to be the like super hopeful and when it's not coming naturally to them. And I've seen other women do it naturally, and I'm just like, you're amazing that you
Yeah.
have the resilience to still have hope and do that. Like, yes, you're inspiring, but it's not available for everybody. It's
Hmm.
not.
How many weeks when you know if the babies come early, they'll be okay? I mean, for the most part. How many weeks is that?
Oh, it's like it's really early now. Like it's very early now. So
Well, for
like I
you,
think it's
what was
like
it?
so it was like 6 months when
Okay.
once you're like 6 months pregnant, like they can, I mean, you don't want that
Yeah, you don't
obviously,
want it,
but
but okay.
yeah. And for twins, especially, right? There's that higher risk. The other thing, this is a fun, you're going to appreciate this little like witchy feeling here. So my brother and I are born the same day, and my sister's born the day after, 8 years apart. We're all born in those 2 days. My sister had my first nephew on September 28th, 1994, 3 weeks late. And then my brother had my second nephew on September 28th, exactly 2 years later, 3 weeks early.
Gosh.
Here I am, 14 to 16, 17 years later, of my fourth pregnancy. The due date on the screen was September 28th, the same as my nephew's. And I was like, huh, this one's different.
Mm,
That was probably, so I've been lying this entire podcast. There was a spark of hope. The September 28th was huh,
mhm.
something's different here. Like something's different here. And I'm saying to my doctor, I was like, I'm getting to the due date. And she was like, you have twins. We'll see how you feel. And I was like, no, I'm getting to due date. Like my kids are going to be born on the same day as where she was like, we'll just check back in at 8 months. And then sure enough, like 2 weeks out, I was like, we'll always have the due date. Get them out.
Always have the due date.
We'll always have the due date.
Twins always come early, eh? Pretty much.
No, I mean, no, mine would have gone. I had to be induced like twice to
Really?
get them out two
Why
weeks
did
early
you?
because they were literally sucking the life out of me. Like I wasn't eating anymore. I looked like, remember Twilight when Bella's having the baby?
I didn't see Twilight.
Sorry, what?
I know. I watched pieces of it once at a cottage, but I didn't really pay much attention. I couldn't. I had
Okay,
aged out by that time. I
fair enough.
it, you know when you see those ridiculous Twilight memes, I'm like, yeah, that's how I watched Twilight. I was like, this is
It
insane.
was. I mean, listen, I would never
But
defend the quality of
I
it.
didn't watch it young enough or early enough to get
Yeah,
into it. But because
yeah,
I've
yeah,
watched
yeah,
some ridiculous TV very happily.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
so no, I don't know that part.
Okay, so she's like at the end, she's like the baby is like literally sucking the life out of her, and she's like gaunt and she's like pale.
Okay.
And that's what happened. Like my mom came to town from Toronto. She just knew
Mm,
she just knew things were happening. And she looked at me and she was like, they need to get out. You're not okay.
okay.
Yeah. Like, so it was, I couldn't, another 2 weeks would have been just, yeah. I literally, all I could get down was a glass of orange juice and like a few saltines a day. Like I gained very little weight because I was too sick the whole time. And I was like,
Sick.
yeah,
God, the
yeah.
whole time.
The whole time. I gestated those babies on a Big Mac a day. That's all I could stomach. I could not eat vegetables. I could have the only vegetables I could have were either on a Harvey's all dressed cheeseburger or on a Big Mac. That was it. That's all I could eat.
And you couldn't, there's medication to take for the
I
nausea,
took
right?
it. I was
Oh,
taking it. Yeah.
and it didn't help. Or
It,
I mean, it made
I
it
mean,
all.
it did a little bit. Like I could function, sort of, but I could. Oh
Jeez.
my God, the thought of eating was just, yeah.
Oh, so by this
So
time your body is, yeah, it's
my body's like, we're done. These,
yeah.
as my doctor got, these parasites are out. They're out.
So
Like
you go to see the
they're.
doctor and they're like, yes, this baby has to come out.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, okay, so they were still worried about baby A. They were still
Yeah.
worried about him because he wasn't breathing properly. And I was like, I feel like he has hiccups. Like I feel the hiccups happening. And so it was probably my first like mom instinct where I was like, he's gonna be okay. He's ready. He's
Yeah.
breathing. He's okay. He can do it. But it's a wild thing to do. So this like Canada, thank God. So going in there, so multiples are high risk. The operating room that night, you see, go into an operating room, there were 20 healthcare professionals there because I think there were 9 stations around the room, like lungs or hurt, or blah, 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 and 2 nurses at each of those stations in case both babies had the same thing. And then the doctor came in, and I remember I was so offended because he was like, okay, everybody stop. And I looked at him and I was like, no, 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 no. We've been doing this for hours. You can catch up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then I heard the nurse go, the mom does not like to be encouraged. So just so you know, I was like, I don't need encouragement. I need this to like, come on, let's go. Like this is, and because the epidural hadn't worked. Anyway, it was a whole long trip.
Oh, what?
And the epidural
No,
didn't work.
you can't skate over that.
No,
Why?
it didn't work. It didn't work. And I was like, it's not working. And they were like, sometimes it doesn't work. And I was like, they're like, too late. Off we go. And I was like, oh,
Did you
okay.
did you get anything for pain?
And just as a fun,
Yeah.
I also had a yeast infection at the time.
As you would.
It was quite a day. It was quite a day.
Oh my
So the doctor
gosh.
comes in and says, okay, everybody just like, we just need to stop for a minute. And I snap and I'm like, you can catch up, bro. And he was also like the handsomest man in the entire city. I swear to God. I was like, is this for real? Anyway. And then he goes, okay, who's catching baby A? And there was like silence. And then I was like, well, who's catching baby A, people? And like, good thing this guy showed up. It was like, the whole thing was just, and then, so they got baby A out. And then.
No, we don't get to skate. Wait, how, you have no pain meds?
No.
And you deliver.
But I do have a yeast infection, so that's awesome. And then they do the episiotomy where they cut me open to make sure that he can get it. So like that was awesome.
Without any pain meds?
I mean, maybe it was working a little. It's so you're just
Jesus.
so like the whole thing is just. My sister always says it's like a barn scene. It's like the least dignified moment of your life. Like you're just. And he kept being like, "Do you want a mirror?" I was like, "Ew, no."
Wait,
The
was
only
your
thing worse than
husband at the
doing
time
it would
in
be
this?
seeing it. I
Yeah.
want to see this. Disgusting. No.
Was your
Yeah, he was
husband? Okay.
there. He was there, and my sister was in the room as well.
Oh.
And so yeah, it's just like we're just doing this. Come on, let's go. Let's
How
move.
long were you in labor for, baby?
About 4 hours in total.
Okay, and that's for both of them, obviously. Okay, so baby A comes
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. So he's okay. He's breathing. He's good. And then
That, I'm sorry, I didn't have babies, but I know that it's probably the worst pain that you could possibly feel. And then you're like, I gotta just go do this again. Like I gotta.
it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
There was a moment of like, we're doing this again, right? Okay. So here's what happened though. She was head down, and they could tell that between the pain of the yeast infection and my just general lack of strength, like because I hadn't eaten and because I was just done.
You just
They
delivered a flippin' baby.
Yeah. So the doctor went up, flipped her around, and pulled her out by her feet.
Why? I thought you were supposed to come up by your head.
You are, but I would have had to push her out. to do that. I
Oh,
was done.
that
Like
so
I
it
was
was like
done.
that was in danger then at that point, right? If you
So she would
can't.
have like, yeah, like the speed is a really important factor. Yeah. Like she
Okay.
can't stay in there long. So there's a speed aspect and I did not have it. The,
Holy shit.
you know,
Okay.
yeah. So they just pulled her out and,
Do you
and
remember that
then,
feeling? What's that?
I mean, it's all just like, it's, you know what? This is like, it's just a day. It's just a weird day.
No.
It's just a weird
Eh.
day. Like, I don't know. Like, you spend so much time when you're pregnant, like preparing for the day. And I remember even then being like, I'm going to be in the hospital. Like, I'm just going to listen to them. Like, what happens when I bring them home? Like, can someone tell me what I do then? Like, I was always just worried. I just knew it was just going to be a hard day.
Okay.
And I'm just going to listen to them. I'm going to take every medical intervention that they offer me. And like, well, I'm not going to be a hero here. Like, this is not my journey. Like, I just want to get through that day as quickly and risk free as possible. And I knew if I made a plan, it would blow up in my face. So I didn't bother making the plan. It was just like, let's just go.
Yeah. Okay.
My plan was to listen to the medical professionals. That was my plan.
Okay. So he flips her out by her feet.
Flips her, pulls her up by her feet. They're both given the clear. So this I will not forget. So it was funny. My mom had driven in from Toronto, and my husband's family had driven in from Toronto, and there was lots of people there. And then we had sent them home around midnight because the doctors were like, I had like 11 because the doctors were like, nothing's going to happen for 24 hours. And then sure enough, an hour later, I was like, it's happening. And so just before, like probably, so they were delivered about 4 a.m. and about 3 a.m., wherever we were, I said to my husband at the time, I said, you better call my mom. Like she's going to want to come back for this. And he looked at me, he was like, she's already here. She just got here like 20 minutes ago. Like she just knew. She just knew. The woman never bought milk, never bought bread, never knew what grade I was in, but she knew that. So she was there. So, and she was always talking to everybody, all the nurses, everybody. And so when they wheeled me out of the operating room with the babies in my hand, I could see she had a look on her, and we got into the room and she was kind of crying, but in a way that was kind of sad. And I was like, what's happening? And she said, I was just talking to the nurses and the nurses were all crying. The nurses were crying. Like there was something weird. And my mom said that the nurses had told her basically like that there had been a very unhappy ending for somebody else that same night. And it doesn't always end this beautifully. And so it was clearly like the nurses needed this to counter whatever had happened. And I always think of that, well, like, who was that woman? What happened that night? Because the nurses were all like, and, and so it was there again. Do you know what I mean? This like these multiple journeys that everybody's going through at the same time. It was like, oh my God,
So many
everybody's in
different
it.
outcomes,
So many different outcomes. And so, yeah. And then I felt like a total asshole because then I couldn't figure out which one was which. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, I'm like, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, I'm working it through in my head. I'm like, which one went in, which one came, like, what did they tell me? And I can't remember. I'm like, I'm going to have to literally take them out of their blankets, unswaddle them, take their diapers off to figure out which one is which. Like, I have to admit that I don't know which one is which. And so I looked up and I was like, I can't remember. Can we put ferrets on them, like a pink one and a blue one? Can we just start gender stereotyping them right now just so that I can like keep track of which one? Because I don't know them. Yeah, I don't know their faces yet. It was so wild. But that was the other thing though with the infertility and the like I was not able to acknowledge how hard multiples were on me for that first 6 months of the no sleeping, and one had health issues and because to complain was to be ungrateful. And so there was like a whole other hangover in that way. That was just like, I don't regret it. I observe it, and I just, again, try and like give people the grace to just be a little easier on themselves on that. Like, it's okay.
We're
You can admit that it's
so
hard.
we're so hard
You
on
know,
ourselves. Like even
we're
if you
so hard
think
on
back to
ourselves.
that Lori holding those like let's say 4-month-old babies, how can we be so hard on ourselves? And it's something I think we have to live through in a certain like I didn't live through that, but our own things. And
Hmm.
then you can look back and like baby yourself backward almost. Like you're like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
I can meet you now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was, so another thing, like, I find for people who have had infertility and a hard time, and then they finally like it felt like winning a lottery. Like I've often said, you probably heard me say this, that like the moment that I realized that I was going to be having twins, I think if you mapped my brain against someone who won $1 billion, it would be the same reaction. Like it was literally the same feeling as you just won $1 billion. Like it had been so impossible, and it was the thing I wanted the most in this world forever, and it was happening, and it was just I still look at them and I'm like, really? Like it happened? Did
Yeah.
it? But I grieved a lot knowing, because I had wanted 4 kids. I'd wanted 4 kids, singles. And I was very quickly, I was bitter about only having one shot at this, because I knew I was only going to have one round at this by the time it happened. And
Wait, why? Like why
I
did you decide not to try again?
so the twins is just like, it's no joke.
Hmm.
Multiples are no joke.
Yeah.
And, I think I knew that my husband, that was going to be like, he wasn't going to be able to imagine more than that. And so I just didn't really let myself consider it.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I just knew it was just kind of like just going to be here. But then for people, everyone wants to be around the babies and I was like, you all had many babies and you're going to have other grandchildren. I have one window of time with my newborns. If you want to come visit, can you just go do the laundry, please? And let me just sit with my babies and just soak it up? Because this is it for me. I'm getting
Right.
one shot and that is it. And so I was like, I was irritated because I felt like people were stealing my time that I had like desperately waited for. And anyway, so what I do with that now is I try to think about that. When people have babies and, like just when I go to help, it's not to hold the baby. I'm not going to help to hold the baby. Like if you want me to hold the baby, I will hold the baby all day, all night. But I'm gonna assume you want to hold the baby, and I'm gonna do your dishes, and I'm gonna fold your laundry, and I'm gonna tidy up your house. I'm not gonna, you know, because you feel the fleetingness of it from the minute they're born. You
Really?
feel it. You feel like it's all like it's it. This is it. Every milestone is like, I'm only getting this once.
Mm.
I'm only getting this once. I'm only getting this once. Other people get it multiple times, and then but it like continues to have a bit of a, it's interesting how it just continues to kind of show up, I guess is what I would
Yeah, I
say.
was wondering, did that show up when they were toddlers? Did that show up when they were
Hmm.
in yeah, okay.
Yeah. And the thing that why I like, because I reached out to you, I think in my words were, if you do a miscarriage post that's not with me, I'm going to lose my shit,
Yeah, you're like, I'll be
because
murderous.
this is why. So one of the most validating things for me, just after, actually, I remember this. So like in September, so it would have been the summer, it would have been like July. And I was with some old friends from Montreal who moved to Ottawa, and their parents. So I'd known the parents since I was like 10. And the mom of these 2 kids that I'd grown up with, she was at this point 70, 80, I think even. And I mentioned the miscarriages thing, and she got tears in her eyes, remembering the miscarriage that she had had before her now 35-year-old kids were born. It was still there. And there's an energy that you can absorb when you're in it, that you'll get over it, and that it's not a big deal, or not that it's not a big deal, but that like this is a thing that you get over. And when she looked at me with tears in her eyes talking about it, I was like, it was real. Like that hurt was that hurt. And when on the morning my mom did Mead, as you know, And on the morning that she was going, we were looking out over Lake Ontario and Burlington, and it was just her and I, because this was one thing that she and I had miscarriages in common. We had very few other things in common, but we had this in common uniquely to my siblings. And, she was talking about who she was hoping to see on the other side. Grandmother, her aunt, her dad. And I said, what about the babies?
Ugh.
And she teared up and she was
God,
like, oh, they're there. She was like, they're there. And I was just like,
yeah,
it doesn't, it is real. You want to convince yourself to minimize it, and you're kind of encouraged implicitly to minimize it. And it was literally with my mom until her dying day. Those 3 miscarriages that had happened 40 years before. Those 3 babies were there waiting for her. And in a way, it's like the details aren't as fresh in my mind anymore, but I still, it's still there. And I want people to just know that it's okay that it's there. And you don't, even if it was just 6 weeks, when you want it that badly and you connect to that, it's not insignificant, and it's okay if it doesn't go over time, and it doesn't mean it runs your life, but it's okay to just leave space for it,
Yeah.
And I still, honestly, have, okay, I know I'm taking this, you're going to have to edit this big time, but
I'm going to edit out the tears.
No, you look amazing. So I went to a psychic at one point between miscarriage 2 and 3. So after the bad one, that summer in July, we went to New York City and we rented an apartment, Lower East Side, for a week, just to okay, we're not going to have kids and we have disposable income. Let's go let's go to New York. And there was this psychic in Greenwich Village. My theory is she can afford rent in Greenwich Village. She's got to be good, right? She's got to be high quality psychic. So I go in. My husband at the time is, all of a sudden, he's very Catholic and feels very upset about all of this and does not like it. And he stands outside and I was like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm going in, but you don't have to. So I go in and, I tell her nothing, and she's doing a tarot reading for me. And she goes, I see you with the got her a little while there, but basically she was like, I see you with 3 children. And I was like, huh, okay. And then she says, do you have twins that run in the family? And I was like, no. She was like, oh, that's weird. I see you with twins. And then she said a few other things, whatever. And I came out and I didn't say anything to him because he was just like, I do not acknowledge that you did that. That is witchcraft. That is bad. Whatever. I was like, okay. But it was so then I think probably one of the first things I said, one of the key things I said while I was delivering the babies, I looked at him and I was like, that's psychic. She said I was going to have twins, just so you know. But the 3 thing, when she said the 3 thing, I always think about the one that got to 12 weeks as the 3rd one. And so I have a lot of 3s in my house of 3 eggs in a nest, and 3 things have come and things have been given to me, like a little owl with 3 little owlets, and I'm like, so it's that, that pregnancy. I've just always felt like that one was, the 3rd one. The other ones were so early on that I don't, it was sad for me, but I don't, think about it the same way. Whereas that one at 12 weeks, I was like, that was, yeah. Yeah. So it stays.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of walk around and you're just able, and you're able to be more sensitive in the world. Not all the time. Sometimes I still kind of fuck up and say the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time, but on this stuff. But yeah, I'm grateful I'm no longer a person who's like, oh, everyone's going to come to the baby shower and when people tell me they're pregnant at 6 weeks, I'm like, I have to bottle up my anxiety about it. I'm very excited for you. I need you to come back and tell me when you're at 13 weeks so then I can like be, like I have to kind
Right.
of do that, which I don't like love doing, but I just also, I like, this is probably really bad, but I kind of want to give them space in case something goes wrong, that they know that I get it. Do you know what I mean? Which is like so not helpful to them. Because they're probably like, you know what, you take your shit and you park it and you don't
Yeah.
project
Big
it on
side for
me.
me.
But this is what I just can't. Yeah.
I find it interesting that we tell people at, 12 or 13 weeks, like I didn't really question that that's just what we do. And now I question it because I'm curious about everything, literally. And I'm like, we do that for ourselves, not for the person who's pregnant. You could be like, oh, I found out I was pregnant last night. And then it's like passed on to us to have to figure out how to be there if it doesn't stick.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
stick
Yeah.
sounds so cold, but
It's, no, but
it's
it's
like,
true. Yeah.
who are we doing that for? Are we doing that for the parents? And mostly probably the mother, but or are we doing it for ourselves that we're like,
Yeah.
please don't make us deal with this? Because a lot of women, there's so many women in my life that have had a miscarriage that
I know.
not that I forget, I remember, but I forget because it happens so often. And then I'm like, we don't, this feels like we should be talking about this a lot more, or like that it should be, yeah, more not awareness. I know everyone knows it happens. But anyway, so I got into this conversation with somebody and I don't even know, I can't remember who it was exactly, but we were like, yeah, that whole I'm not going to tell anybody till 12 weeks is probably for everybody else and not the person. Or
Yeah.
could be for
And
the person if you're like, I don't want to have to say this
yeah.
out loud if this doesn't work,
Yeah.
or if I
For
lose this
sure.
pregnancy. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But
What I
anyway.
realized by pregnancy 4 was that I actually had, so I had to tell people, I had to tell the people I was pregnant that I would end up telling I had a miscarriage so that they didn't just get the bad news out of nowhere. So I had like a little core group of people
Mm.
who I would be like, so I'm pregnant.
Right.
We're not celebrating. We're not excited about it. This is a medical diagnosis. And should things go awry again, I'm going to need the edible arrangements and the drop off of, gossipy magazines and your fury and whatever. So, but like, just that's where we're at right now. So, also, if I'm a little bit that's what's going on, and we'll regroup as things go along and determine if and when we get excited about it. Like, it was just very managed. And I managed this, but I did realize that I had to tell people. Like I had to work backwards from if I have a miscarriage, who needs to know? Like the parents need to know. They need to know. And my sister needs to know. And my best friends need to know. So I need to tell them, but I need to tell them in a way that they're not going to be, reckless with it. But I mean, but adult, like we all have so many things, right? That we're like, it's a horrible thing, and it's not unique to the range of difficult things that we all experience and that we don't talk about enough, but it adds to the pile of just things that we need to just be like. It's just helpful if we're aware of them, right?
Totally.
What people might be walking around with, and then what to do. Like I wrote a blog post at one point about like, because I would get, at one point I thought once I started talking about it, then I started really talking about it, because then I started oversharing. And I used to have a blog, and I posted the miscarriage post on the blog, and it got shared, 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 and shared. And then I felt like I knew about every second miscarriage that was happening in the city of Ottawa, because people would like reach out and be like, hey, my friend had one. What do I do? And I was like, okay, so edible arrangements and fury, go. Ask them if it was painful. Let them talk about it. Let them talk about the experience. Be curious about it if they want. Take their cue, go. And it was just because people want to be helpful. And it's so hard in that situation to know what to do. But like, not unlike all the other hard situations, right? Like you've talked about this, like before and after your dad died, how you talk to somebody who's lost a parent, it changes once you've been through it. It's different.
Totally.
It's different.
And
So
also
you need to like
acknowledging,
help people.
yes, you do show up for people. But the other side of that is everyone wants it in a different way. So it's also just being curious and like
Exactly.
being willing to show up in the wrong way. Like be willing to go to the house and be like, do you want me to hold your baby? And then read it, right? Like if this is your person, be like,
Yeah.
I'm also going to do this. Like I have a friend right now that's moving and I keep going. I'm like, I'll be there to help pack because I actually love packing. I love unpacking. I love organizing. It scratches an eternal itch for me. It makes me so happy. And I was over there the other night and David's like, you have to give her space now. And I looked at her and I was like, oh, yep, yep, this is for me. I'm going to go. So like also show up, figure out what they need, be willing to screw it up a little bit and then pull back
Yes.
and go about it a different way, just like,
Yeah.
but just like be willing to show up in the wrong way because you'll figure it out with that person, like have a
Yeah.
talk.
But
Just
show up.
show up.
Show up and say, like, I
Hmm.
don't know, what do I need to do?
I
Where,
know.
what do you need me to do? I'm going to
What
do
do you need?
this
Hmm.
until you tell me to do something else.
Yeah.
But like, this is where I'm going to start so that you don't
Yes.
have to think about it.
Just start.
And then you're going to just keep telling me what you need and don't need
Yeah.
because I need to be useful here. So it's all about me. So you need to let me be useful. So you need to tell me how I'm going to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to just do something that's going to irritate you.
Thank you for sharing such a, gosh, like deeply, deeply vulnerable and personal, yet united experience. Like, but so deeply personal, but so uniting because it happens to so many women and also their partners, and also their
That's a
other
whole other
kids and their
piece. Yeah.
friends and their extended family. So I think this is so helpful for a lot of women to listen to. I literally just had a coffee with this week with a friend who I found out miscarried really recently. And uh, I'm like, oh, I can send this to her because I can show up and I can try all the things and say all the things I can think to say and love and compassion and empathize. But it's so nice and so helpful to be able to hear it from somebody who's experienced it. And you've experienced it, unfortunately for you, but fortunately for others now that you share it in different ways and at different times of the pregnancy. And, some pretty devastating and one when you got to be really high. But it's like, it just, yeah, it's
Yeah. I
helpful.
think that I think that your ability to just embrace your curiosity is I would imagine I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that was probably, you know, just not being afraid to talk about it, right? Like just being open and curious about it. And if the person wants to shut it down, then then okay, yep.
Yeah.
But shutting it down before you give them a chance to process it is the part that I think I can't imagine that works in any way,
Yeah.
right? And I think that yeah, you have such a natural, you're like incapable of judging anyone, which is super helpful. And you're genuinely curious because you're just fascinated with the human experience. And so, it's more of that energy to not to have the courage to be curious. Like it's tempting to not ask the questions and just hope that
You're
it
like,
goes away,
God.
but have a little courage. The curiosity is where the gifts are, right? It's where the juice is. Like that's where the squishiness of life is in the curiosity. So,
Yeah.
and I love that you never wanted children. Like I love talking to people who didn't because they come at it in such a way that's like so objective, which is just a safe way for me to talk about everything.
You know
Because
what I love?
feelings are terrifying.
I feel like this is a different podcast, but a friend of mine wrote me and anyway, she said, "Can we have a coffee?" And I'm like, "Sure, what's it about?" Because I was wondering if it was about work or whatever. And she said, "I'm deciding about whether or not to have kids, and I want to talk to you about how you knew you didn't." And my thing is, I didn't know I didn't ever. I never was like, I don't want kids. I just never woke up one day and wanted them, if that makes any sense. So it wasn't like this all knowing. I never it was like I know if I had kids, I'd be a really great mom, and David would have been a fantastic father, and we would have like dove into that. I just never woke up and wanted one day. That's
It would
that's
have
the only
been
way I can explain it.
interesting. It would have been interesting had you gotten
I
pregnant
know.
accidentally.
And I used to say like, David, heads up, if that happens, I like I'm gonna keep it. I think it's like to me, not I
Yeah.
believe in
Mhm.
abortion and you
Mhm.
do what you want to do.
Mhm.
I just was like, if it happens to me, I feel like it'll be a sign. I was,
Yep.
loving, like I could have
Uh-huh.
handled it, and it
Yeah.
didn't. So I don't. Just wasn't meant for me. But yeah, it wasn't something I knew with certainty, but it was something I wasn't certain
Yeah.
enough about to do.
So I think that was actually like my ex-husband's experience a little bit. Like I was much more sure than he was.
Right.
And when after the first miscarriage, it had become clear for him that he wanted it.
Oh.
Like it was a very different, energy after that first one, because of his grief. And like your point about the partners is huge, especially like in a male-female relationship where men are, they're like they sell the patriarchal, pressures of like be the strong one and don't have feelings, and I do, like it's a really important point that like letting them have feelings on it independent of taking care of their partner it's an important acknowledgement that I don't know how often we do it. And again, like as I say all these things, I'm like, oh yeah, I missed it that time. Oh yeah, I missed it that time. But I try to just make space for that as well, to give them their own experience, not in a relational sense of like how they're taking care of mom, but like, this is your grief too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get to have some, Yeah.
Can't
do anything with it. None of this is fixable.
No.
Right? Like, you can't fix any of this, but
no, the point is to learn to live in it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me bully myself onto your podcast. I really appreciate
it. Listen, I'll take any piece of Lori, whether it's in a podcast, eating tacos, having a beer in the backyard, or an old-fashioned, bourbon will come back into our lives. I should see if we have some left here. I'll save you some. I love you. Thank you for coming into my world. Oh.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Bye. Bye.